Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about solving and graphing inequalities. Hopefully this looks semi-familiar to you, but I like to always just make sure we're all on the same page as we're moving on. So yesterday you had taken an assessment on equations. So the next step is doing inequalities. The nice thing about inequalities is the way we solve them is the same way we solve equations. So that's pretty good. Nothing too crazy. There is one special rule with inequalities I'll go over with you quick. And then they also wanted to quickly go over graphing them. So let's start with that. When we are graphing an inequality, graphing here, one, we have to see what the inequality is. So we have a few of them. So let's say we say x is greater than 7. So as we read an inequality, we like to read from left to right. That's just how our life is. But just as a heads up, when we're reading inequality, you read from the variable. So as I read this, this says x is greater than 7. So to graph this, you would make a number line. You want 7 on there, so you can put a few points to either side. If you want to label them, go for it. The big thing with this is you need to know how to or what to put on that 7. So we have two things that you can do. You can do an open circle or a closed circle. Open or closed. And you do an open circle when it's just greater than or less than, aka there's no or equal to. And if you do have the or equal to, you do it closed. So that signifies, is that point actually part of my answer, or is it just kind of like a barrier? So in this case, at 7, I would put an open circle. And then you just think about what your inequality says. X is greater than 7. So you would shade anything greater than 7. It kind of keeps going, but like it does a deal. I don't care. You can put an arrow that way, anything like that. That signifies that is fine. But just as a reminder, as you're putting it on your number line, what type of circle should I do? Should I do an open circle or a closed circle? And then which way should I shade? So I feel like sometimes, okay, that kind of makes sense. Anything greater than 7 is to the right. Sometimes people get a little confused if I wrote something like this. 5 is greater than X. And they say, oh, I see a greater than symbol, and they just automatically want to shade to the right. Not true. Actually, let's make this greater than or equal to. Jazz it up here. So I know that 5 is going to go on my number line. You can do a few other points as well, just around it. This says 5 is greater than X. But when we read an inequality, we read it from the variable. So this actually says, if I read it backwards, X is less than or equal to 5. If you're ever confused, and some people's brains just work that way, like it says greater than, I'm confused, always just rewrite it. So remember back in the day, you got your little alligator, okay? If you just rewrite it, you flip things around, just make sure your alligator's eating the 5, flip it that way. And if you flip it, it says X is less than or equal to 5. So the important thing is that you're reading from the variable. If you're getting confused because the variable's on the right side, you can feel free to flip it around. Just make sure inequality still makes sense. In this case, I look at my inequality there, that or equal to is underneath, so it will be a closed circle. And then as I read it, it says X is less than or equal to 5, and less than would be to the left. So you can do something like that as well. I don't really care, as long as I can tell. But I know which way you're shading. I'm usually a shader like this. I don't know why. I just like to do it that way. I think it looks nice. So as we are solving, we are going to get an answer, and then we are going to be graphing our answers on a number line. So just as a heads up there about how to do that, hopefully that is a reminder. So now let's do some solving and graphing. Okay, so solving is going to be very similar to solving equations, which is nice. We don't have to kind of learn new steps. So let's just look at one multi-step inequality. So if I had 2x plus 3 times x minus 1, but this time we're saying is less than or equal to, where in the past we would say is equal to, 5x minus 6 minus 2x. Okay, so we have a few steps here. The nice thing is we solve it the same way. Kind of just think of that as like your barrier in between if you want to draw like a little line to see your left side and your right side. On either side, I'm going to simplify. So I have 2x plus 3x minus 3. And when I combine that, I'm going to get 5x minus 3. On this side, when I combine those, I'm going to just get 3x minus 6. Okay, so I'm going to get my variables together as the next step. That gives me 2x minus 3 is less than or equal to negative 6. And then we just have a two-step inequality. 2x is less than or equal to negative 3. So x is less than or equal to negative 3 over 2. Perfectly fine to get a fraction here. Leave it as a fraction. Improper is good. We do want to graph it as well, though. Sorry if I'm a little crooked here. There you go. So when I graph it, you can just like literally throw negative 3 over 2. Hopefully we know that's negative 1.5. So if you wanted to put it between like negative 1 and negative 2, just a few other points in general. And then the main goal is what type of circle am I putting? This would be a closed circle. And then which way am I shading? That says x is less than or equal to that, so I'm going to shade to the left. Okay. So just as a reminder, you're solving it the same way you solve an equation. Ooh, excuse me. So that hopefully shouldn't be too terrible. If you're having issues, let me know. And then the extra step here is you are also graphing it on a number line. There is one special little rule. Let's see if you've seen it or if you can semi-remember it here. So if I give you an equation like this, 2 minus 3x is greater than 5. Okay, so this doesn't look too terrible to solve. I'm just going to go through my normal steps. I'm going to move the constant first, so I'm going to subtract 2. Negative 3x is greater than 3, and I'm going to divide by negative 3. So this is where I'm going to have a little alarm go off in my head. If you multiply or divide by a negative, you need to flip your inequality. Okay, so I'm doing that here. I'm dividing by a negative. So as I write my answer, it's x. I'm going to flip this inequality. It's a greater than, it flips to less than, and this comes out to be negative 1. So that's my final answer. And I'm graphing based on my answer. So I graph negative 1. I look, that's an open circle, and that's now less than, so that's to the left. So please make note of this loop. Rule. It's really the one thing that kind of differentiates between equations and inequalities. It's the one special thing you need to be on the lookout for. It just happens randomly, so you really just need to check, am I multiplying or dividing by a negative? Because then you would flip your inequality. All right, one more problem. I'm going to just do it on the back of this. Sorry, I'm writing all sorts of crooked today. I don't know what's going on with me. Okay, let me give you this one. 2x plus 6 minus 3 is greater than x plus 5 plus x. I'll keep it not too terrible. All right, I look, I say, all right, I'm going to solve this inequality. Once I solved it, I'm going to graph it. So my main goal, I'm just going to start to kind of combine like terms on either side. So on the left side here, I'll combine like terms and I'll get 2x plus 3. On the right side, I'll combine like terms and I'll get 2x plus 5. From here, I'm going to get my x's on the same side. When I do that, I have no x's left. So that's going to be my hint that I have a special case here. And now I have to look, is this special case a no solution or is it an infinitely many solutions? And we decide based on whether what we have makes sense or not. This says 3 is greater than 5. That's definitely not true. So if your statement is not true, your answer would be no solution. If it asks you to graph it, you literally just make a graph and nothing is on it because there's no solution on there. So there's no numbers to put, there's no circles to put, there's no shading to do. So just as a heads up, if your statement had make sense, maybe it said 3 was less than 5, your answer would be all real solutions. And then you would, on your number line, you would actually shade the entire thing. So that's the difference between those two special cases. But I did want to point those out to you. So hopefully that was a good review of some inequality stuff. So today you're going to be doing an assignment based on that. And then we will be seeing more of this next week in some more detail. I'm looking at things that are compound and looking at absolute value and all that fun stuff. So if you have any issues today or problems, just let me know. Feel free to shoot me an email. I can help you out. And then we will continue from there. So have a good day. Thanks, guys. Hold on, sorry.